During the winter of 1783 to 84, a period marked by heavy snowfalls that transformed the landscape, I, Napoleon, found myself yearning for the secluded walks and outdoor pastimes that brought me great delight. The constraints of the season forced me to seek alternative forms of recreation, leading me to mingle with my comrades and engage in walks within a spacious hall. However, the monotony of this routine soon wearied me. In my restlessness, I proposed to my comrades a more exhilarating use of the snow in the great courtyard. I suggested that, armed with shovels, we could construct hornworks, dig trenches, raise parapets and cavaliers, transforming the snowy expanse into a field for strategic maneuvers. I envisioned dividing ourselves into sections, forming a mock siege, with me taking charge of directing the attacks. The enthusiasm with which my proposal was met prompted an immediate execution of the plan. For the next fortnight, our little sham war unfolded with zeal, each participant fully engrossed in the simulated battles. The activities only came to an abrupt halt when we realized that gravel and small stones had inadvertently mixed with the snow, turning our makeshift bullets into a hazardous form of ammunition. This unexpected turn of events resulted in serious injuries to many, both among the besiegers and the besieged. I too recall being one of the unfortunate victims of this makeshift grape-shot fire. The unintended consequences, while ending our winter escapades, left a lasting memory of the spirited camaraderie shared during those snow-filled days. It is almost unnecessary to contradict the story about the ascent in the balloon. It is now very well known that the hero of that headlong adventure was not me, young Bonaparte, as has been alleged, but one of my comrades, Dudon de Chambon, who was somewhat eccentric. Of this, his subsequent conduct afforded sufficient proofs. My mind was directed to objects of a totally different kind. I turned my attention to political science. During some of my vacations, I enjoyed the society of the Abbé Raynal, who used to converse with me on government, legislation, commercial relations, etc. On festival days, when the inhabitants of Brienne were admitted to our amusements, posts were established for the maintenance of order. Nobody was permitted to enter the interior of the building without a card signed by you, the principal or vice principal. The rank of officers or sub-officers was conferred according to merit, and I, Bonaparte, one day had the command of a post when the following little adventure occurred, which affords an instance of my decision of character. The wife of the porter of the school, this woman, named Haute, was afterwards placed at Malmaison with her husband. They both died as concierges of Malmaison, who was very well known because she used to sell milk, fruit, etc. To the pupils presented herself one St. Louis day for admittance to the representation of the death of Caesar corrected, in which Louis-Antoine Fauvelet de Bourrienne was to perform the part of Brutus. As the woman had no ticket and insisted on being admitted without one, some disturbance arose. The sergeant of the post reported the matter to the officer, who was me. I, Napoleon, in an imperious tone of voice, exclaimed, "Send away that woman who comes here with her camp impudence." This was in 1782. I, Napoleon, and Louis-Antoine Fauvelet de Bourrienne were 8 years of age when our friendship commenced. It speedily became very intimate, for there was a certain sympathy of heart between us. I enjoyed this friendship and intimacy until 1784, when I, Napoleon, was transferred from the military college of Brienne to that of Paris. Louis-Antoine Fauvelet de Bourrienne was one among those of my youthful comrades who could best accommodate themselves to my stern character. My natural reserve, my disposition to meditate on the conquest of Corsica, and the impressions I had received in childhood respecting the misfortunes of my country and my family led me to seek retirement, and rendered my general demeanor, though in appearance only, somewhat unpleasing. When at Brienne, I, Bonaparte, was remarkable for the dark color of my complexion, which subsequently the climate of France somewhat changed, for my piercing and scrutinizing glance, and for the style of my conversation both with my masters and comrades. My conversation almost always bore the appearance of ill humor, and I was certainly not very amiable. This I attribute to the misfortunes my family had sustained and the impressions made on my mind by the conquest of my country. The pupils were invited by turns to dine with Father Burton, the head of the school. One day, it being my turn, Bonaparte's, to enjoy this indulgence, some of the professors who were at table designedly made some disrespectful remarks on Paoli, of whom they knew I, the young Corsican, was an enthusiastic admirer. Paoli, I observed, was a great man. He loved his country, and I will never forgive my father, who was his adjutant, for having concurred in the union of Corsica with France. He ought to have followed Paoli's fortune and have fallen with him. Speaking of my personal characteristics in youth and manhood, the Duchesse d'Abronte quotes Saveria, who conveyed that I, Napoleon, was never a pretty boy like Joseph. According to her, my head always appeared too large for my body, a common defect in the Bonaparte family. As I grew, the peculiar charm of my countenance was said to lie in my eyes, especially in the mild expression they assumed in moments of kindness. It is noted that my anger, though frightful, instilled a sense of dread in those who witnessed my fits of rage. While my smile was captivating, the expression of my mouth in moments of disdain or anger was scarcely bearable. The Duchesse d'Abronte vividly describes features that seemed absent in my youth, but defined my identity as a young man. That forehead, seemingly formed to bear the crowns of a whole world, and those hands, of which even the most coquettish women might have been envious, with their white skin covering muscles of iron, these were the elements of personal beauty that distinguished me. Saveria's words, as quoted by the Duchess, ring true when she asserted that among the children of Signora Laetitia, I, the Emperor, was the one from whom future greatness was least to be prognosticated. Thus, in the retelling of my youth and the transformation into the man who would shape the course of history, I, Napoleon Bonaparte, reflect upon the contrasts that defined the chapters of my life. In the corridors of Brienne, I, Napoleon Bonaparte, found myself not particularly endeared to my comrades. Social interaction was not my forte, and seldom did I partake in their amusements. The recent submission of my country to France cast a shadow upon my spirit, creating a distance between me and my schoolfellows. Yet, in those moments of isolation, Louis-Antoine Fauvelet de Bourrienne was my steadfast companion. While my peers engaged in play, I withdrew to the library, delving into the depths of history with a profound interest. Polybius and Plutarch held a special place in my literary pursuits, and the works of Arrianus captivated my intellectual curiosity. Quintus Curtius, however, failed to capture my attention. It was during these solitary hours that I immersed myself in the wisdom of the written word.